Hi everybody, in this video we're going to model a low poly planet using Blender 3.6. This is a little bit longer than I'm usually accustomed to doing videos, but I'm going to go step by step through the whole process and try to follow along and pause when you need. Okay, so I just started a new document. I'm going to remove this cube here and I'm going to Shift A and make an isosphere. Now down here, remember, don't touch this. If you touch this, this option goes away, which just happened. So I'm going to get rid of this and make another one. Isosphere, and I'm going to go to Add Isosphere. The subdivisions I want to be 1, and I'm going to make the radius a, let me see, 3, and I apologize. I'm going to make the subdivisions a 3 and the radius 4. Okay, so subdivisions 3, radius 4. All right, I am going to make a new isosphere, so I'm going to click off and Shift A. Be sure that you do not move any of these. So Shift A, and here's my new isosphere. It keeps the same options which I want, except the radius I'm going to make a 4.5. So it will be slightly larger than the previous one. I can see here I have 2 isospheres. You can see which one is smaller than the other. The smaller one I'm going to label, so you can double click the name here, and I'm going to call this water. And the other one, the larger of the 2, I'm going to call grass. Okay, let's texture these. So I'll start with the grass. I'm just going to mix up real quickly right over here. Just go to the materials here, and I'm going to choose a green that I want. Okay, and if you're not seeing that, just going to go to the shade mode here, or the mode that shows lights and shadows for your render view. Your viewport view, excuse me. Now what I'm going to do is there is an eyeball next to grass here. I'm going to turn that off, and that will disappear my shape temporarily, and I'm going to go to the water and the sphere here, and what I'm going to do is just quickly add a new texture and choose a blue. Okay, so both of these textures and every texture that we make, we will be moving up the roughness to 1 and the specular to 0, because the low poly look kind of has a matte finish. So specular down and roughness up. Okay, the next step would be to take this sphere, the grass, to edit mode. So we're going to come over here to edit mode. You can also press tab on your keyboard. And I'm going to go directly to face mode. And you can see I can select faces in this mode. Now what I'm going to do, there are a few different selection types. Right now we're on select box, which really isn't going to help us right now. I'm going to change this to select circle. And what I'm going to do is kind of select a winding river of faces here. And once you orbit around, you will have to hold shift to add to a selection. So I'm just going to, and it's okay to be a little thicker in some spots. This is your planet. Yours might look a little bit different than mine. So I'm going to go all the way around. Now it's important to be sure that you are that the Z is facing up, so you'll have kind of 2 sides to this planet that are useful. You decide which one you like better. So I think that this one is a little bit more interesting here. So a lot of the features that I'm going to add are going to be on this side of the planet. Okay, so now that I have those faces selected, I am going to go to the extrude tool. I'm going to hold it down because we need to go to one called extrude along normals. And you'll see there's a yellow pulley here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag that pulley and sink it until it reaches below the border sphere. You can see I've just done that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look at this loop tool here. So there's a loop tool, and I'm going to hover over one of these edges that are going up and down here vertically. And you can see I can add a loop, but I don't want to add a loop right there. If I hold this down and drag up or down, you can see I can slide this loop, and I'm going to slide it up a little bit like this, and I'm going to drop it there. And this is because I want just a little bit of edge of grass. Now this here will be, let me just get off of that tool, these faces, and I can get back to face mode, but these faces are going to be brown because it'll be the dirt. And I've left a little bit, a little bit of grass with that edge loop. So what I'm going to do next is hold shift and work all the way around, and selecting with my selection tool here, I want to select all of the faces that will be the dirt. Now don't forget the opposite side. Oh, and look at that, I forgot about the loop on this side. So I'm going to texture this first because I don't want to lose this selection. So over here, I'm going to add. So there's a plus sign. Remember, this already has a texture. It has this green grass texture. I'm going to press the plus sign, and I'm going to mix up a new material where this will be the brown I'm looking for. Okay, and it doesn't go on there. It might look like it, but this is just the yellow selection. I'm going to press assign, and when I press assign, if I'm selected on faces, this material will be assigned to the faces I'm selected. So that's done. I'm now going to get that loop tool, and I'm going to add a loop. I'm going to hover over this vertical edge and hold down and slide up. Okay, I did it. I'm going to get my selection tool again, and I'm going to go to face mode, and I'm going to select the faces all around this side of the planet. Now I'm going to have to hold shift to add to my selection. By the way, if you select too many, you can either press undo, which is Control Z, or you could hold Control and click, and it will deselect. So just a little tip there. I'm going to continue to hold shift and select these faces on this side of the world. Okay, there we go. And I have this texture selected. I'm just going to press assign, and it is done. All right, so I'm going to go back to my good side of the planet here, which was this. Remember, if you feel like you're upside down, just look at the Z-axis. It should be facing up. This would be upside down. The Z is down there. Okay. So I'm going to go back to object mode now and just temporarily move this light over here. I just need some light on the front of the planet. In fact, maybe I'll just come over. No, I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to just put this light front a little bit and see what I'm doing. Okay, let's select the grass texture, and I'm going to go to edit mode again, and we're going to start to create the terrain. So I'm going to select what I like to call a pinwheel of faces, so something like this or like this. So find a spot that you would like to select, and I think I'm going to maybe start on this side of the planet. I'm going to model a volcano. So here we go. First, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get to, we don't even have to come over here. I'll just get to my selection tool. I have this selected, this wheel of faces here, and I'm going to press E to extrude. I'm going to pull it out about this much and click, and then I'm going to press S to scale, but not to a point because I want this to be a volcano. So I'm going to go about this far. So that was E, and then click, and then S. Then I'm going to press I, and I insets the face, as you can see. So I'm going to inset the face, careful not to go too far. I'm going to only inset the faces this much, just to have a border, and click, a little bordered edge on this volcano. And then I'm going to press E to extrude down slightly. I'm not going to go too deep because I do want to see maybe a level texture right here. Well, while these faces are selected, I might as well texture them. So I'm going to come over to the plus sign. This is on right here on my material section here, the plus sign, and I'm going to click new, and I'm going to choose some type of red. Okay, and press assign. Excellent. Okay. I'm also, while we're working on this volcano, I'm going to maybe select a few of the faces around the volcano here, the volcano itself, and maybe just a few around it as well. Oops, I can undo. To maybe texture kind of like a granite texture. Whoops, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to press the new button here. I'm going to go to new, and base color, I'm going to choose a gray. Okay, and press assign. Now, I'm not, I forgot that the last few textures, we want to make sure your roughness is up and your specular is down. So I'm going to select on the lava texture here. It has a little bit of a shine. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to bring roughness up and specular down. Okay. Nope, I must have missed the face here. I'm just going to select that and click on this and assign. All right, excellent. I'm going to work on this side of the world now. So I'm going to take just this pinwheel of faces here. I'm going to press E to extrude, and I'm going to press click. I'm going to click my left mouse button and then press S to scale. So I'm going to bring this to kind of a point. I'm also going to do like a mountain range here. So I'm going to press E for these faces, and then click, and then S to scale. Okay, and maybe one more over here. I'm going to click E to extrude, and then S to scale. Excellent. All right, now these faces, maybe I'll texture, and I'll have kind of a snowy terrain on this side. Sweeping around this way. Okay, I'm going to mix up a white, so new. Click on this, maybe slide this up, and let's make sure the roughness is up and the specular is down. And don't forget to press assign. Okay, excellent. Maybe over here I could have some type of a desert. I'm going to mix up a beige material. So, oops, undo that. I'm going to press new and new. And right here, I'm just going to mix up kind of a beige, a tan. Okay, and press assign. All right. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so the next step is to start to add some elements to this planet. Now, you can do this in a separate file, and maybe I will do that. I am going to just save this, and I'm just going to call it planet. Okay, and I'll save that, and I'm going to go to File, New, General. Okay, so let's model a tree. I'm going to take, I'm just going to get rid of this here, delete that up. I'm going to Shift A, and I'm going to make a cone. And this cone, don't touch it. I'm just going to come right up to the Add Cone drop-up menu, and you can choose either a 5, 6, or 7. Maybe I'll go with a 5 on this one. And I'm just going to keep the radius alone. So there. But 6 works well as well. Maybe I'll do 6. Okay, so 6-sided cone. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to Shift D to grab it and duplicate it, and press the Z so it slides on the Z. I'm going to slide it up, and then press S to scale it down a little bit smaller. And I'll do that again. I'm going to Shift D. That's a duplicate. I'm moving around, but press Z to slide it, and then press S to scale. Okay, I'm just going to maybe squish these a little bit closer together here. I'm going to make just a cube. It's not, doesn't really matter. I'm going to press S and slide this down and move it down so it fits right there. Okay, so well, first we're going to texture this. So I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to create a new texture, a new green. This will be a little bit darker. Let's make that roughness up, specular down, and let's take a look at that. Okay, now if I want the same green on this texture, excuse me, on this object, I'm going to drop this down, and this will show you all the materials you have in your scene. Now, right now, I just have the default, and I have the green one that I mixed, so I'm going to select that. So I can take an existing shape and assign an existing material. Okay, the next one is the cube here, and I will mix up with new. I'm going to choose some type of a brown to get into that orange area and drop that down. Okay, roughness up, specular down. All right, so in this order, and I'm going to select the top piece, then hold shift and go work my way down as I click these objects. Important that you start at the top and move down so that the gizmo will be locked in, or the origin point will be here. Now we can always change the origin point, but to save time, just select the top one here, hold shift, click, click, and the last one you should select would be the trunk of the tree. And I'm going to right click and join. This joins the objects together. They are one piece, you can see here. And what I'll do, you could save this. I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to copy it. So that's Control C to copy. Be sure that you see copied one select object down here. You wouldn't want to go over and have it not be copied. You're welcome to save this. As I said, I'm just going to go to Open Recent and the planet. And as I said, I'm not going to save this. I'm going to paste it in. Now I'm just going to go to the materials. And that would be Control V to paste. Excuse me, you have to be in object mode. So I was in edit mode. Let's get to object mode. Control V to paste. And you can see if I press G and grab it, it's over here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to plant these trees around this planet. Now, it would take a long time to move them and rotate them and scale them. Blender has a great function here, and it's a snapping function. So we can just snap the rotation and it'll all be great. So what we're going to do is, with this tree selected here, which you don't need to select it, but come up here and select the magnifying glass. Okay, excuse me, the magnet, the magnet. And let's turn that on. And I like to call these two TIE fighters. That's what they look like to me. But click on this drop down right here. And let's go to Face Project. So select Face Project. I'm then going to click Center. And I'm going to check the box called Align Rotation to Target. Okay, done. So now when I grab this, so by pressing G, I'm selected on the tree. I press G and drag. You can see that it is snapping to the planet, and it's rotating it for me. So I'm going to click, and then I can press S. And because that origin point that we were talking about is at the bottom of the trunk, you can see it's scaling from that point. So I don't even need to move the tree after I scale it. It is planted. Okay, so there. I'm going to plant some more. And I'm going to Shift D, and you can see it's already snapping. This is perfect. So I'm just going to put one here, and maybe just make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to Shift D and put one here, and press S to make that a little bit smaller. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to take this chunk. So holding Shift, get all three. Careful not to select your planet. I'm going to take these three, and I'm going to press Shift D, and I can drag really quickly three that have a variety in size here, and create a quick little forest in some spots. So Shift D, Shift D, few of these around. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just save this, and then let's go to File, New, and General, because we are going to create one last tree. Let's see. I think we'll create more of a traditional tree here in a low poly style. I'm going to take this cube. I'm going to click on it. Let's bring it to Edit Mode. Let's go right to Face Mode. Click on the top face. I'm going to press E and extrude this up, and then press S after I've clicked. Okay, and I'm going to press E again and just bring it up, almost so you're kind of seeing a cube shape up here. I'm going to take, let's see, let's just do one at a time here. No, just so you know, here, let's do two at the same time. I'm going to bring out some branches. Now, if I press E, this happens, and I don't want that. So when you have two faces selected at the same time, and you want to extrude them, you will have to hold down the extrude tool and go to extrude along normals. And then pull on this bar here, and there we go. Okay, now I will take this shape, and maybe I'll just grab it and move it on the Z, and then press S to scale that. I will take this one, I will grab it, maybe I'm just going to slide it a little bit closer, and then grab it again, and press Z, and press S to scale that down. I'm going to take this also, and let's press E to extrude, and S to scale. Okay, that's fine for now. I'm going to come out of object mode, very important, because I'm going to add some new shapes. And if you make new shapes in edit mode, they will be attached. So coming out into object mode here, I'm going to just texture this up. So I'm going to create a new material, and we'll make this brown as well. Let's go roughness up, specular down, and I'm not seeing it because I'm not selected on this mode here. Okay, Shift A. I'm going to go to, yeah, let's try something different. How about a UV sphere? I'm going to just grab that and move it on the Z. And what I'll do is I'll grab it again on the Y, put it here. I'm going to press S to scale that up. And I'm going to do that again. Shift D, just move it over here, and Shift D over here. I'm going to change these sizes. Press S. This one scale down, and this one is our largest one. G, Z, slide that up. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now that doesn't look good. So let's look at some modifiers here. So I'm going to select this UV sphere. I'm going to click on the modifier, and there's one called a it's called a decimate. So what we're going to do is when I click on decimate, it's a ratio of 1. We're going to change that. Doesn't look like anything happened, but once we change this ratio, how about to a 0.1, enter, you can see it has broken it down. It has decimated a lot of the faces and broken it down to something simpler. I think we're going to go even more. So that was a 0.1. Let's go 0.05, enter. That looks great. And I'm going to add a decimate to this as well. Maybe we'll do a 0.03 for this one. Enter. And I'm just going to add one to this as well. And I have a little variety going on here. So 0.06, enter. Great. Okay, so let's just add some textures to those. Maybe I'll do a few different shades of green. So we got this, roughness up, specular down. This one here, quickly mix up something a little bit different. Perfect. Roughness up, specular down. Okay, roughness up, specular down. All right, let's do this the same way. I'm going to hold Shift on these parts first, then hold Shift and click the last piece, which is the trunk of the tree. And let's do right click and join. Ah, look at that. So my modifier is confused because as I join things, there's a shape that doesn't have that modifier, and it is ridding the spheres of it. So let's undo that, and I'll show you what we need to do. If I click on the sphere, I'm going to come over to the modifier list, and you can see I have the modifiers on these spheres, and there's none on this one. So if I drop down right here, so select one of the spheres, I'm going to hit this drop down, and I'm going to go to apply. And what that does is it applies the modifier so it is permanent. Okay, so right here, I'm going to do this to this one as well, and this one, the drop down called apply. So now there are no modifiers. They are permanent. So I'm going to hold shift and get the leaves first, hold shift and click on the trunk last, and I'm going to right click and join. Perfect. Let's copy, that's Control C, and I'm going to go to my recent planet. I'm not going to save, you're welcome to, and I'm going to Control V to paste, and you can see there it is. I'm going to grab it and just bring it over here because I'm going to scale it down a little bit before I snap it. Okay, now I'll press G, and you can see it is snapping. I'm going to click and then press S to scale. Let's get in there. That looks good. Let's use Shift D, and we'll just add a few more. If you wanted to rotate these, you certainly can. You can just twist them around. Okay, but let me take another one, Shift D, let's get off of that tool, Shift D, and just add a few more around here. So there are some great tutorials on YouTube for adding some other types of elements you might want, animals, things like that. Maybe put in the comments if you want something, if you're interested in seeing something. But I think I'm going to kind of stop there. I am going to start the clouds now. So Shift A, I'm going to add a UV sphere or an isosphere, either one. I'm going to grab and press Z and move it up. Okay, and I will just quickly add a material. And I already have a white material that was from my snow, so I'm just going to use that one. I'm going to add a modifier called the decimate, and we will decimate this to a 0.1. And that is just way too much for this shape. I'm going to do a 0.5, and that looks fine to me. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate and slide it on the Y, and slide it over here. Oh, it is snapping, you see that? So I can turn off the magnet and grab it again, and now it will not. S to scale, all right. And I will duplicate this, Shift D, and move it on the Y, and put one over here. Just a little variety in size, and make this a little larger. Okay, let's just slide that in. Okay. Now they all look the same, so I might rotate this. A great way to rotate something on kind of a ball rotation, you can press R, and then you can slide it like this. If you just press R, it will rotate around the camera's view or the way you're looking at it. But if you press 2 R's on your keyboard, it'll be more of a tracking ball rotation. Nice little tip there. Okay, now we got a little variety. I'm going to select these 3 and right click and join. Okay, I'm going to press S to scale those down and grab them so just get a little bit closer to the planet. Okay, now right away I'll just Shift D and I'll slide this on the Z and I'll bring it to the other side of the planet here. Okay, it's hard to see because there's no light down there. We'll fix that in a moment. And I will just Shift D again. I'll bring one over here and I will rotate this. Shift D. There. Okay. So the next step is to start looking at lighting. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this back up in the air here, and I'm going to change this to a sunlight. So when I select on a light, I have an option down here with the light bulb. It's on a point light right now. That's the default light that was in our scene. I'll just place it right above the planet here. Oh, look at that. Doesn't really matter where it is, but I'm just going to put it here. It's just easier to see. And I'm going to click the sun. Now the sun should not be at a strength of 1000. We're gonna make that a 3. Okay, you can just see it looks like this. I'm gonna press RR and I'm gonna rotate this until I find a spot that I like. I definitely want to have light shining on this planet, kind of at an angle, just a little bit more interesting. Okay, perfect. And what I'll do, I'm going to change this to cycles because I want to just see what this is looking like in the more realistic renderer that Blender offers. So there's Eevee and then there's cycles, which takes into account real lighting situations. All right, that looks fine. So I have this angled light this direction. It's gotten a little dark here, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Shift A. I'm going to make a light, and I'm going to make an area light. And right away, it's in the middle of the planet. I'm going to grab that with G, and I'm going to rotate this so that it is facing the planet. Okay, you kind of see that, just like that. And let's see, I want a little bit of light there. Okay, and let's see. If I press S, I don't think that does much, but I'm going to make it brighter. So I'm going to go to the light bulb here. It's at 10 watts. Let's make that 100, and let's see what that does. Okay, I kind of like that. Might be a little bit much, but that's okay. All right, next. I am going to work on the background. So let's make a plane. So Shift A, we're going to go to Mesh, Plane. I will grab it and move it on the Z. Move it all the way down here. I'm going to press S and make this large. Okay, good. And I'm going to bring this shape to Edit mode. And in Edit mode, I'm going to go to Edge mode. And I'm going to select the back edge of this plane. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to press E to extrude, and then Z to slide it up on the Z. And I've slid it up pretty high. Okay, so right now I have this. Okay, I can temporarily get out of Eevee, or excuse me, out of cycles, back to Eevee, and this will behave a little bit quicker. It won't be as speckled. All right, so now I'm going to click on this middle edge here, and this middle edge, I'm going to get the bevel tool. Now, I always forget the quick command. It looks like it is Command B, so I'm going to do, oh, it's Control B, maybe it's Control B. I'm going to, nope, that's not right, so just escape there. I'm working on a new keyboard here. I'm not on my Mac keyboard, so I'm just going to click it, and there's a handle to pull. I'm going to pull that handle about this much, and I'm going to get the drop up menu for bevel, and we're going to add some segments. Okay, so I'm going to just add about 25 segments. Perfect. I'm going to then come back to object mode, and I'm going to click on this and right click and shade smooth, just so it looks a little bit smoother. All right, excellent. I'm going to make this a little bit wider, so let's press S and then Y to slide this wider. Okay, now what I need is a light that's in between the backdrop and the planet. So Shift A, and I'm going to go to Light and a Point Light. And there it is. I'm just going to get my regular selection tool. I'm going to grab it, put G, and slide it on the X, slide it backwards. So you can see it. Let's do it again. GZ, or sorry, GX. Slide it so that it is halfway between the two. All right, excellent. I'm going to go back to the cycles mode here, and I'm going to select on the backdrop and just add a texture. Now I'm going to choose something fairly dark. Maybe I'll go with a darker blue, purple. Just look at that color. Let's pull that down some. yellow, darker shade of violet, and I'm gonna roughness to 1 and specular down. So that light, let's get back to it. Here's the light. 10 watts, we're gonna make this a lot brighter. Let's see what 1000 does. All right, and what I'm looking to do is add a halo of light that's banking off of the backdrop. That is not enough. I'm gonna go with 10,000 on the power. Okay, that's getting a little bit better. I think we can do 20,000 though. Excellent. All right, that's what I want. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I think we can go a little higher. So 40,000. Okay, great. And what I'm going to do, while I'm selected on that light, I'm actually selected, I'm going to press G and Z. I'm just going to bring it up just a touch and sort of see if I can get a bit of rim light. You can see it's definitely adding some light, some rim light around the clouds and some parts of the planet, so that's what I like. Okay, yeah, you get that look. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, I'm just going to create a different background color. So that's this here, it's very gray. So you get in a very neutral light, but I can click on this and I'm just going to move this towards the blue area. And what that's going to do is just add a little bit of color into the shadow areas of, you can see the shadows have become just a little bit more violet, the material color that I've chosen here. If it's too much, you can pull it towards gray. It's just going to help overall. All right, next we're going to look at the light here. This is the sunlight, and I'm going to go to, let me see. Sorry, on the light bulb, and we're going to look at the angle, and this can help to make your, I believe that's right, if you can change the angle and make it a little higher to make the shadows a little bit less harsh. So let me see what 20 does. And it'll help to soften up the shadows. Okay. And if you feel like that's too bright, we had it on a strength of 3. You can always knock that back. So maybe I'll do that. Just make it a 2 for the strength. Okay. Now it's time to render. Let's make sure that we get the camera facing, or because if facing before we render. See, right now the camera's here, and when you render through the camera's view. So if I render this, I'm looking at it like this. This is how I want to render this planet. If I come, let me just fix something. I forgot, the water level is way too low. So let's select it. I'm in object mode, press S, and I'm going to raise that up slightly. Sorry about that. Okay, that looks a lot better. Okay, so like I said, time to render. We need to move this camera. So if I want to render from this view and I go up to render and render image, what you'll notice, you can see the camera is not in the correct position. So how do we move the camera to where my eye is looking? This is what you do. You hold Control, Alt, and 0 on the number pad, and that will move the camera to where you're looking, where you're orbited. I am then going to press the letter N, and this will come out. I'm going to go to the word View, and I'm going to click on this here. It's Camera to View. So check this box. When you check that box, you'll notice that the camera is now highlighted in a thin red outline. That means the camera is active. And if I orbit or pan, you can now move your objects or your planet here and fit it inside of the camera's view. Excellent. All right, so now that I have that in there, I am going to come over to the render settings. So right here, the render settings, you can see we're on cycles, we're all set up. We can go to GPU compute. That should be a little bit faster. And the max samples, I'm just going to keep it the same here, but if you want to speed this process up, you can definitely lower these samples, maybe make them 128, 128 for both of them, depending on your machine. I'm going to come down to performance here, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. I find that 512 on the tile size, when it's rendering, it'll render in tiles of 512 pixels. I think that works pretty well. I'm also going to click on this denoise, and that's just going to kind of get rid of a lot of the noise that you're seeing. Now, it might look blurry, but that will all render out nicely. Okay, so I think that we are, I think we're finished. So how do we render? It looks like I've got this thing ready to go. It's in my camera's view here, and I have looked at the render settings. This is the output. So if you click on this little camera here, you can see we are at a resolution of 1920 by 1080. You can keep that, or you can choose from one of these presets right here if you want to go a little bit larger. So you can go 4K if you'd like. This is not an animation. I'm not going to worry about this. This we're not going to worry about either, because we're going to save this after it's rendered. So we're ready to go. I'm going to go to render and render image. And we're just going to wait for that to render. So I'm going to pause this and come back when it's rendered. Okay, so mine finished rendering, and you can see it looks fantastic. I can save this. So to save, once it's finished rendering, you can go to Image and Save As. So that concludes the Poly Planet. If you want to leave a comment about maybe some other items you'd like to see on this planet, please go ahead. I'll try to get to those. But good luck, and give it a try.